there's 16 lions, right?
There's what?
If there's 16 lions,
None of the men
and me and mine is 2 lions, that means I gotta kill 14 lions for my lion to be safe.
No, they ain't, because they're pride.
Huh?
Oh, god damn.
That's a good. That's a good.
That
What if they got my pride though?
Okay.
They gotta go.
But the thing is, if you going out for that meal, y'all gonna hunt together. They hunt together. Only time they not a pride when the male lead a pride to go form his own pride
Now,
and they try to take on another line.
I just chose lions because that was the first thing.
Does anyone else?
I just watch a lot of animals.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Nadia.
And it's me, Coach T.
And we are Two Average People.
Yes, we are.
So y'all, thank you for following our podcast. I've had so many people come up to me at work or, my friends saying, oh, I just watched your podcast. So thank you guys for following us.
It's been an amazing ride.
It's been an amazing ride.
We are episode 10. We're in it for the long haul,
people. So if you haven't seen our videos, check us out, like, subscribe, and we'd love your support. Oh, babe, we got to talk about our launch.
Yes, we had an official launch.
Official launch. And it was on our anniversary, May 29th. Shout out to 12 years.
Shout out.
So we officially launched our podcast on that day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a fun event too. We had barbecue and your boy was on the grill. Your boy likes the grill.
He does like to grill.
Likes the grill.
Yeah.
So yes, it was great food. It was great fun. It was amazing people. People of all distinctions in our community, and we have clips that we're actually going to show you a couple clips and from the event. But it was just a wonderful time when we all got together and got to talk about our relationships and just have some real honest, candid conversations about what we all go through.
Yeah, it was great. We had a lot of our closest friends there who have gone on this journey with us even before the podcast, who know us, who know our relationship, and just our great friends were there to celebrate with us as we, did something so major, such a big milestone for us. So it was great. It was really, really great.
It was fun. And one of the things that we had, one of the focal points of the event was we brought on a professional who really knows what he's talking about in the realm and in the space of communication and relationship dynamics and the whole 9 yards. He's also my brother from another mother. We brought in Mr. Jonas Beaubrun, who we're actually going to go ahead and bring in now. But before that, make sure you like and subscribe to this video. We appreciate the love that you showed this channel, and we want to make sure that you continue to show us all that positive love. And the way you do it is by liking and subscribing. Let's go ahead and bring in Jonas.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey. How are you?
What's going on?
Doing well. It's good seeing you guys.
Awesome. Can you do us a favor? Tell the audience a little bit about your background and why you're qualified to talk your ish.
Wow. Let's see. So, in terms of education, my undergraduate is in music and psychology. My master's is in counseling therapy. I've had the privilege of working with adolescents, couples, incarcerated individuals on so many different platforms, professionally through various arenas, working in professional institutions as well for over almost 30 years now.
Nice.
So, and I'm also in the process right now of finishing my PhD in education and leadership. And I'm also consistently doing all types of research, everything from spiritual dynamics to research dynamics, of course, spiritual and relationship dynamics, which we'll also be talking about today. And so
you're qualified to talk your ish, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's what I heard. That's what I heard.
I am.
So, man, like I said, man, we appreciate you coming out to an event. I want you to go through some of the things that you took us through at our launch event because, man, it turned out to be so powerful. And I want to make sure that our audience gets a chance to kind of experience it like as if they were there. So just take us through a quick walkthrough of what you took us through.
Yeah. So one of the things that I wanted to look at was 3 things primarily. I wanted to look at the mantra of a relationship, and also looking at how miscommunications happen, and also how misperceptions happen. as well. So how that was done was the mantra, of course, when you repeat something over and over during a meditative, state, having had taught meditation for several years, that becomes like this ongoing, reoccurring theme in your life, a perception that you have about a thing, a goal, etc. So I presented that question to the group. Hey, what's the mantra of your relationship? We just kind of started with that.
Okay.
Then the second thing we did was that there was a line exercise in where individuals was asked to basically line up, but they couldn't turn around and see the instruction that was being given to them. It's almost kind of like a bad, on purpose. It was done on purpose this way. It's kind of like a bad telephone game. The person at the end of the line.
Exactly what it reminded me of.
Dance moves to do, but you didn't see what the dance move was. Then the person had to tap you and show you what the dance move was. And in the process, a lot of information got lost. A lot of information was recreated.
Yeah.
And then the person at the front had to go all the way to the person at the back and say, hey, show this to me. And it can turn out to be two completely different dance moves. And that, of course, speaks to when people publicize aspects of their relationship, how information gets left out. Also how, we communicate various things with various energies. And also being mindful of the community that you're just actually sharing this information with, You two are my family, so I've shared literally everything with you guys because you know me and I know you. So I know if I share something with you guys, you have the proper lens to kind of give me a balanced insight, meaning to say, if I'm in the wrong, you can say, that didn't make sense, right? And versus just blindly taking my side. And then, of course, the last one was the perception piece. And that was where everyone was just basically given balloons. And I love this exercise.
A balloon.
Right. Yeah, this was my favorite game.
The balloon one was
that was really, really good.
That was powerful.
I love that one because, and I seldomly get a chance to use it in large groups. And so, everyone was given a balloon. And the instructions were very simple. Protect your balloon.
All right, so I think, does everyone have their balloons ready?
Sorry.
Everyone has their balloon? Everybody?
Except Kenny.
Quickly. This is the last exercise, and then
we're going to have fun.
Let me shoot the shit.
All right. So, does everyone have their balloon?
Yeah.
All right, cool. I'm going to time this. Okay, I'm going to time this exercise. All right. So, it's going to be 1 minute. Okay. I'm going to give you the instructions. It's 1 minute. Okay. And looking around the room. So you have 1 minute to actually protect your balloon.
That was it. And
the words were literally protect your balloon.
Protect your balloon for 1 minute.
All I said, right?
That was all you had to do.
Protect your balloon. That's it, right? And I set a timer and did nothing else. And it was fascinating because everyone got up and started popping each other's balloons.
Including me.
Wives were going after husbands. Husbands were going after wives.
She did pop my balloon. I remember now.
No, I didn't pop it.
You popped my balloon.
I did?
Yes, you did.
Oh.
Don't worry, I'm gonna get you back later. Don't worry.
And the funny thing is that couples were going after couples. It became a competition, and it was really, really, really fascinating because all I said was protect your balloon.
Yeah.
I think we only had one couple. They went in opposite directions and held on to their balloons, and then they came back together when the game was over. Right. Because I never said pop anyone's balloon, take anyone's balloons out or anything like that. That had a lot to do with perception, how are we interpreting various things? The word protect, what does that mean? What does that look like? The word love, the word intimacy, the word, closeness, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right. And seeing how everyone had this interesting reaction around it. I never said anything other than that. Of course, competition. That's also a fundamentally dangerous aspect in relationships. It's two people coming together and synergizing, right? It's not a competition.
So Jonas, I think what we heard was protect your balloon. What you said was protect your balloon. What we heard was there must be something coming to attack it.
Facts.
Right?
Okay.
Well, if something's coming to attack me, I'm grabbing something to go back and
defend yourself.
Fight.
I'm gonna
defend myself.
fuck everything else
Let
up.
him preach. Let him preach.
So
Yeah.
in the context of relationships, right? If you're protecting the relationship, you can you protect and attack at the same time? Obviously you can sometimes in some cases in war. right? But if you both are protecting the relationship, that's how you both are moving. So which means that if everybody here just basically sat still with their balloons,
then we would have been okay.
You all would have been okay. But it was the perception, right?
John Gottman's, I believe it's the 8 or 7 stages of making marriage work. And one of them, he has one, create your own shared meaning. And that was really what made me say, okay, well, how do you do that? And I started looking at ways that, well, what do we say to each other? What do we say about each other in our heads? We indirectly communicate so much about our relationship without ever really saying it directly, because our mantra kind of leaks through. Sometimes,
okay.
You ever looked at a couple and you're like, they don't like each other.
Oh yeah, all the time. I'm like, yeah, they don't like each other, or how are they married?
Right?
Like, how is this person married? Because
right, there's always that one over actor though in the relationship. Right, everything is great, and you're like, nah, your mask is loose. We can see through it.
So let's bring this down to earth a little bit so that our folks can really digest some of what we're talking about here, because what we're talking about is very important stuff, but I want to make sure that we can digest so we can have actionable steps to walk away with. What are some exercises that they can do, or some thought processes that they can enact that can help them find the right track?
Well, it's interesting too that you asked that question, babe, because like Jonas just said, I think that's one of the biggest challenges in relationship is seeking to understand. We don't seek to understand. We just seek to for all of those other reasons. And so that's interesting that you asked that question, because I was just going to tag on that piece with what Jonas said.
I think to answer the question, the first thing is that you want to step away from the perception that your partner is your enemy. And I think that's very important.
Step away from the perception that your partner is your enemy.
Exactly.
That's good. That's good.
Very, very good. Yeah.
Because in the beginning, you came on board and mutually agreed to go on this journey with your friend and soon to be your best friend. Tabari is literally one of 2 people that are extremely close to me, like close to me. Right? I can say this, but his wife is going to be closer to him. That's the way it should be. That is his wife, right? So if there's an issue between the 2 of them, then it's almost like a default. That's not my enemy. The issue is here, but we are here. Mm-hmm. So I think that's very, very important to separate those 2 things.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other piece is looking at communication style. So before we go to speak, I speak 2 languages. So if I go all of a sudden and start speaking Creole, right? But you don't speak Creole. Now I get my words out. I say it with all the intention and emotions and intensity behind it. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So I got my words out, but you don't understand what I just said.
How do you bridge that gap between males and females where naturally we communicate differently?
Yeah.
Or women and men. I shouldn't say women and men. I'm sorry. I know people take offense to the males and females term. But women and men, naturally we communicate differently, right? And so how do we bridge the gap of speaking the same language, hearing each other in that sense, to what you're saying?
So therein lies the issue of that polarized ideology, right? Men are going to hear differently than women. So, Tabari and I, if we're having a debate, and if you don't know us, it does not look pretty. Because it's a debate, and we just... But
it does look, y'all. It does. It's not pretty. I'm like, who are you talking to? Oh, yeah, Jonas. Because only a couple people you'll talk to like that.
Yeah,
okay.
But
I was like, why are you being so mean to him? Stop. He's my friend too. Stop.
Right? He said he likes DC more than Marvel, baby. What? No, it's just So you kind of have these
fighting words.
But on the outside looking in, it's like, whoa. But then now you have this dynamic. That's like, you guys are still cool? Yes, because there's all these other things that's interwoven in the way that we speak to each other. Underneath all of that, there's trust, there's love, right? But that's man to man, right?
Facts.
So there's a way we're going to hear that same message, from a woman. And if we hear it the same way from a man, the way that a man would say it, it might hurt our feelings. Sorry, fellas, I know some of us don't want to admit that. It might make us defensive. We might find ourselves stonewalling because part of it is because how did our mothers speak to us? They wanted us to do things, right? We don't think in those terms, unfortunately, right? You know, little things. You said actionable tomorrow. So
Mm-hmm.
speaking slowly is a big one.
That's a
You
big
know,
one. Let me stick a pin right there, because I know Nadia and I, when we were, having issues in communication, we would have just slow conversation. And what that means is she would make a statement, and if I started feeling myself, rising, I just would not respond. Now, I wouldn't ignore. I would acknowledge what was said, and I would say, just give me a minute. And I wouldn't go anywhere. I'm not leaving. But I'm just giving myself a minute to really process past my own emotional state, to really make sure I heard what she said, not what I thought I heard. You know what I'm
right,
saying? Just so that my response and return can be equally as measured.
Yeah.
right.
That's a big one.
Yeah. So, and also having what's called a shared meaning. You know, it's oftentimes couples will have their own language, which is beautiful. Their own language, not the language social media gives you or some random thing you heard in a song. At the launch party, Tabara used the example of, if I say to my wife, "You good?" Because I need to talk. She understands what that means because he's in a mood, he's in a space, but he needs to know, hey, can I unload? I'm mad about something over here, but I need to talk to you about it, and just get that out. But that's a shared meaning, right?
Yeah.
Really, really looking at those things and separating the problem from your union.
Yeah.
And
That's a big
that's
one.
a hard one for people to do because egos are attached to things, and your esteem is attached to things, and titles, and perceptions and all that. But if you can separate those things, I've had what I consider to be an honor, to go to couples' homes who lived in a 1-bedroom apartment, and in some cases with a kid, and they looked happy. Like, I'm like, how? Because they actually cultivated their own thing. It's
Nice. Yeah,
their own
that's
thing.
key.
It's not for someone else. Now, if they've cultivated their own thing, they understand the foundations of having, or at least the fundamental piece about having each other, and being there for each other. So yes,
Yeah.
needless to say,
Yeah.
they're gonna have their arguments, they're gonna have their disagreements.
Absolutely.
To see people in that kind of an environment and function in such a healthy way, you're like, so maybe it's not true, all this talk about having money, doing all this. It's about balance. So I
Facts.
think, and lastly, I'll keep leaving it open for more questions. I think it's really two things. I think you're managing risk, but in yourself because you trust your partner. So you're saying, okay, I need to take this risk and share this vulnerability with you and share, this fear, this doubt, this thing that's bothering me, whatever that thing may be. And then the other piece is really knowing how to manage conflict. Not everything is a fight. Not everything is a
Right.
necessary
Big one.
debate.
Right.
Not everything is something for you to win. Everyone,
Right.
everybody needs to, I'm dominating and I'm running the show, right? If it's the woman to the man, the man to the woman, that's called a fight.
Right.
No matter which way you slice it.
Yeah,
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
There's a necessity for balance there. So managing conflict. Is this something, if I'm dating someone and she goes over budget by $400 on, something that we agreed to stay $200 or $100, and that's a discussion, right? Because that affects us, right? So there's a yin and a yang. It's a dance, and in dancing,
Right.
there's a push, there's a pull, there's tugging, there's, it's a dance, so
Yeah.
that's that. There's some other stuff, but that I definitely want to speak to, but
I mean, I thought the event was wonderful. I loved all the exercises. And it was we got to hear, so I don't know if we mentioned this earlier, but it was a couples event. So it was majority couples
Right, I don't
there.
think you mentioned that, yeah.
And so we really got to hear the different perspectives from some of the men and some of the women. And just in that time, one of the guys made a comment about, his feelings of, he's a guy and he has feelings too. And, sometimes women, sometimes forget that. And, I felt like one of the women there kind of saw that as an attack on women, and I had to tell her, hey, look, this is just an observation. Hear it as an observation, not as an attack. right? And so, but that all comes from your background or your relationship or your experience, right? For me, I heard it as a pure observation, no offense taken. When it comes to a relationship, you know, it's kind of hard when you don't, like you said, with balance, when you don't have two people that are ready to grow and ready to learn and don't trust each other, which is a big thing. They don't trust, you know, I can't trust you I can't trust you enough for myself to be vulnerable with you. And so we always tell people all the time, look, I don't care if I'm right or wrong.
Yeah.
I have no interest in this relationship in being right or wrong. Okay.
It's useless.
Obviously, sometimes I think I'm right. He thinks he's right. But I care about progress, about growth, about balance. I don't care about being right or wrong. And I think that is a principle that has held us together. But it's a hard one for for people to grasp, because like, I know I'm right, or you always want to be right. And look, I tell them all the time, I don't care about being right. Really, you said a lot of really great things, Jonas, because it's something that I firmly believe in. Balance is such a big thing. But I think from my experience, and not to get too out there with people's information, but just talking to certain different people, there's a lot of trust that just isn't there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of respect that just isn't there.
Yeah.
Lack of appreciation that isn't there. And so
like
it's hard to be balanced, I feel like, in a situation where you don't have what you need necessarily. Especially for women, because we intend to be very emotional beings. And so we come from if you come from a place where there's no trust, or you feel underappreciated, or how do you find that balance within your relationship?
Well, I think earlier you said the key word, principle. I think if you share similar principles with your partner, the doorways towards that answer are all open. You know, we are all human, right? So, you know, that being said, this new age dynamic around a plethora of devices being given, most of these people are not even married, surprisingly enough. They're doling out marriage advice, right? But they're not necessarily giving advice about growth. They're showing what's called control dynamics. There's a whole humanity. There's a whole list, tons and tons of books just chucked out the window, right? And it's become very, very unrealistically basic, right? Because we've left out the humanity piece. Yeah. And I think that if you have shared principles, now you have proper conversation. How do you feel about God? How do you feel about social, perspectives? How do you feel about my in-laws?
I feel like those are the kind of conversations that you can't have once. You have to have it like 10, 15, 20, 50, 30,000 times in order to really, really, really get deep into that topic enough to make people feel comfortable.
You're so right, babe, because you have those conversations early on. And usually you're on the same page about it, else you probably wouldn't have been attracted enough to
go as far as you are,
and to have a long-term relationship as far as marriage. I think the issue comes when, as you grow, you evolve, or you change, whatever word you choose to use, it happens, right? I'm definitely not the same person when we met that I am now. Okay. That's just not, I'm wiser, I'm more mature. I'm, just there's so many different things. And so I think what's happening is both people are doing that at the same time.
Yeah.
And they're not doing it together. And so you end up just growing apart because you're not connecting on any level, right? And so, yes, babe, you need to have those conversations over and over. But you think about the conversation in the beginning when it's like, oh yeah, we're so great.
We're so together.
We're so together. We're
peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Yeah. Oh my God, we get along. And then you have those conversations later on in the relationship. Remember, the emotions are affected. The trust may be lacking, and so that those conversations look very different. But you said that you like Cheerios. Okay, well, I don't now, and
that's that.
Right.
Yeah.
So the main piece is that, and I agree with you, Tabari, when you say you should have those conversations often. But What I will add to that is being mindful that you're having those conversations about those types of dynamics, not about
Right.
relationships. Sometimes too much relationship talk just gets very daunting and exhausting. There's an issue there. It may not necessarily mean that the relationship holistically has problems, but there's an individual that's lacking or suffering or has some unfinished business in their lives and some aspects of their personality. You know?
And to
So,
clarify, you're talking about when you're talking about your relationship with each other, right? Not with other people.
Yeah. Like
Okay.
but you're more like always like
Investigating.
Yeah, you know, like the car's fine, but you're already looking for a reason to get it a tune-up. You just got a tune-up.
Right.
Be in the car, enjoy the car. You know?
Yeah,
You know, but you're
I can
constantly
kind of
doing
see that.
those
You're
kinds of
always.
things.
Well, what did
And
you
I
mean when you
think,
said that? And what did you?
yeah,
That gets.
you know. So I think last but not least, what I will also say is that I did talk about this as well. Sorry, at the opening was that trends versus culture. You know, that was something else too that I thought was very important to talk about because we live in a world that's like this huge surplus of trends, right? You know, everywhere on just about everything, and those things clearly have reflected and found their ways into relationship dynamics. And
That's true.
the professionals are like going, no, that's not right. That doesn't make sense. And everyone's like, because everyone else is doing it. We're going, okay, see you in my office at 5. You know,
Yeah.
it's just that kind of thing, right? Because trends have a shelf life. You know, they're that shirt,
Yeah.
cool saying on it. You know, the sneakers and everything else, and then all of a sudden, no one's doing that anymore.
Right.
Yeah, I see that a lot in like conversations around like Jordan Peterson. You know, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Jordan Peterson, but like, you know, he's a psychologist, I believe, and he is talking about social dynamics and just talking pure science. And people are like, "Oh, you're this, you're a misogynist, you're that." And it's like, whoa. This is literature. It's like he's just quoting a book.
Right.
Like this is what all science agrees on is reality.
Right.
So we got to leave room for the professionals to talk about at least the book science. I mean, that seems reasonable to me. I don't know. It seems like a reasonable conversation, but you bring up a very valid point there.
Yeah.
And also looking at what culture is, you know, the cultures that are there, they're there to help marriages, you know, last 50, 60 years, you know. I was joking with a friend of mine the other day, and I came up with this funny conclusion. When you get married, you get the certificate, right? When you get married. And it's like, no, you should get the certificate after 5 to 10 years, like a freaking award. Like, you know, you've gone through the process, right? You know,
right.
You know,
oh yeah.
Years,
yeah. When you're outside of your marital bliss years, and everything's like, oh, I am so in love.
Right.
And
it's
blah,
like,
blah,
no,
blah.
I want that certificate. Like,
Nah,
we're gonna fight
Facts,
this out.
Jonas.
We're gonna talk this out and build because we want that certificate, right?
Yeah,
it's
that's
almost
like,
you know, and then we complain that, you know, we don't want this kid to play, you know, soccer because every kid gets a trophy at the end. It doesn't matter if they play. So it's kind of like that marriage where everybody gets a certificate without having really like ran the race. And why are they there? So when you just meet a couple and they're like, we've been married for 40 years, you're like, oh, I want that. And sometimes the wise couples will look at each other as if to say, you have no idea what the race is like.
Facts.
You know?
Facts. Right.
I've been paying attention.
That's what you asked for.
That's what you asked for.
I get it. Like there's some wisdom there that unfortunately we might be missing out on. What is the glue? Right? And if it's love, then how are we defining love? Like what is the glue? You know?
I like that. What is the glue?
What is the glue?
Interested in.
Look, this was a fantastic talk. We're going to have lots more conversations just like these with people who know what they're talking about, who can impart real wisdom onto us that we can take into our relationships and really make them better for each other, better for ourselves individually and better together. Because, you know, we always make sure we're better together. And you know what else is better? When you go ahead and click that like button, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, and get those.
What you did there, babe.
You like that, right?
I like that.
Get that notification bell so that you hear and see all this great content coming right your way for all you married couples out there who want to build better relationships.
We want to thank our friend, soon to be
Soon.
Dr. Jonas Beaubrun, just for one being such a big part of our event, but our lives too, and just being there through the whole journey. And
we'll
so
make sure
thank you.
His social media and everything, his
Yeah.
contact is in the description down below. Make sure you go give his website a visit. And yeah.
And I know the main question they're going to ask you, Jonas, is do you counsel? So I will let you answer that question now before we go. All right, because I know that is going to be the main
so
thing.
I do provide life coaching, and I do provide formal group sit downs, and that's right now how I'm able to do that because of my time constraints and everything else. So right now, this summer, that is what I'm doing. Hopefully, as the year draws to a close, I'll be reformulating a lot of that, and I will be doing more formal counseling. But in the meantime, I am available for coaching. I am available for a ton of discourse and sit downs with couples and also individuals as well.
And we will partner with Jonas to make sure that his services are available to all of our fan base, and make sure that if you need to connect with him or you need to connect with us, we can make that possible.
And he's great, y'all.
He's fantastic.
He's worked with me. He's awesome, right? So Jonas, make some room in your schedule because a lot of people are going to be calling you. Here it comes.
Thank you.
All right, y'all. We'll catch you next time. Remember, we're better together.
Better together.
See you guys soon.
Bye, guys.
Peace.